Alexa, I'm home.
How much easier or interesting would things be if you could get all your devices or home appliances working just by talking to them? Well, this emerging reality is called the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things, IoT, is a catch-all term for the growing number of electronics that aren't traditional computing devices, but are connected to the Internet to send data, receive instructions, or both. With the concept of Internet of Things, we are increasingly getting used to connecting everyday devices in our homes to the Internet and to each other to make the places we live and work more comfortable, economical, and safe. Well, this week's guest, Keluro, founder of Nanocentric Technologies, discusses how Economies can benefit from IoT.
Cesar, glad to have you on Tech Trends today.
Yeah, nice meeting you, CFA. It's been a while.
Awesome. So tell us, what is IoT?
Okay, IoT is a sensor network of smart devices, that enables people, applications, systems to collect and share data. It's one of the most amazing technologies of those times, enable us to capture data and deploying that data to improve business outcomes. It's something inspiring, having given us the privilege to make access to out of reach places to enable us to gather sensitive data and deploy that data for business process automation and to drive profitable outcomes for businesses. It's an amazing time to explore this technology, having realized that we are privileged to be deploying sensitive applications, enabling us to drive conversations around how do we improve business process and how do we transform our pain points into data forms that improves collective business decisions making.
Yes, I mean, you said a lot of things, right? But okay, let's look at some of the use cases of IoT. How can IoT be beneficial?
Okay, one of the experiences we've had in our conversation with our partner is this. We realized that the Dangote refinery, a greenfield project, we realized that such kind of project, should utilize digitalization. And when I mean digitalization, it's easy for you to build or for you to embed IoT into refineries of that sort because it's greenfield. So you can begin to build from ground as you're building the whole physical infrastructure. You can create a digital twin, enabling you to, to collect what they call predictive insight on how to improve maintenance, either periodically or set in certain forms, in order to, capture the whole process of the refinery itself and to, create better outcomes for business decision making. And the case in point is how we, plant IoT devices, IoT sensor devices to capture different parameters or different data points that we want to, grasp of so we can understand the whole way the refinery works for optimization purposes.
Okay, so you mentioned, that of a big business, but I'm just also wondering, how about the startups, the SMEs, the small businesses? What are some of the use cases for them?
Okay, regarding small businesses, we can look at inventory management itself, having some sort of IoT devices, in your inventory store can give you live stream about the state of things, the state of your inventory. At what level are they now? Are we seeing a decline in certain number of goods? Are we seeing an upsurge in an uptick in certain kind of products you're selling in the marketplace? We get to find out around how we can optimize what we have in the store. And the fact is, with data, you can do an amazing thing.
One of the things that I sort of wonder about is, how would you describe the IoT industry in Nigeria? Is it growing? Is it stagnant? Is it still at the infancy stage? What would you say?
Okay, at this point in time, we're seeing a lot of upsurge in consumer IoTs, and that's what we call wearables. Having streams of data about your fitness state. We're seeing a lot of information around that, a lot of applications in that space itself. People have a lot of IoT devices on them, helping them to look at the state of their bodies. and that's the consumer IoT space itself. We've seen an upsurge in that area. But the transformation we're seeing in the market is the deployment of industrial IoT, which is an exciting field in its own. We consider consumer IoT to be overhyped because we're not looking at solving real problems. The shift in conversation is taking us to industrial IoT, which basically addresses industry concern and basically improves economic outcomes for peoples.
Yeah. Okay. You talked about industrial IoT and the like. So now, I mean, educate us more. But I'm thinking about is what percentage in a typical IoT project, for example, what percentage of the materials, the tools are sourced locally, and what percentage is imported? The reason why I ask this is just to know the local content component in any IoT project, so to speak. What are your take?
Sadly, in our market, we've not seen the kind of progress we expect, and that's because we have a gap. We have the talent gap, and also building hardware. It's one of the most difficult thing about IoT itself. You can easily itinerate around softwares, but hardware demands a lot of itinerations, a lot of piloting, and that's quite tough for a market like ours that is still growing. I can tell you that we do not have the capacity to build hardware solutions at this moment in time, but I can tell you that we have skilled hands who can build IoT software applications, and at the same time too, the key challenge is for us to begin to look at how do we domicile the building of hardware itself, and that's we hope to see as we build the necessary infrastructure to drive the next phase of this technology.
Okay, thanks for being honest in that question. I also get to worry about what we can do to ensure that we bring more hardware innovations and keep them in the country. But one of the articles I read that you published that sort of followed this interview was the one around the LPG industry. Just share a bit about that.
Okay, right now in our market, LPG is dominated by roadside sellers who constitute 30 to 40% of the distribution channel. They dominate the distribution channel to the end users. The conversation I had with the client was, we understand you do those things, you do research around technology, your partners build IoT applications and other technology solutions. We want to build the next generation infrastructure to deliver LPG to residential areas. And we started having that conversation, and we realized that some of the cylinders in the market are 5 years old, 10 years old, 20 years old cylinders in the market. And one of the issues we have in our market is leakages of cylinders, which basically exposes people to fire outbreaks, explosions, and all that. But what the IoT device sensors have been able to do is to capture that data, enabling us to have insights around usage, enabling us to address leakages, enabling us to look at to peg usage at certain points, 10%, 50%, that streams that data, enables us to look at how do we, meet that end consumer's need, or in some virulent cases, how do we aggregate certain consumers and deploy LPGs to them efficiently? And that's, became a very fantastic use case. And over time, what we realized is this is doable. And, we ended up, start working on this thing, and it's been exciting. And suddenly we saw Newbank Energy in the market doing the same thing, and it got us excited. And what I would say now in these times, these are amazing times to deploy IoT solutions. But the key factor is we need to narrow it down to specific use cases. We need to be narrowed as to what pain points we're addressing. That's key to success of IoT deployment.
Okay, finally, Caesar, tell me the sort of challenges that you are facing and how you intend to ensure that this industry becomes commercialized, if I may use that word.
Okay, I would like to see regulations around IoT platforms. The bulk of this data, it's ferried overseas, and we would like to begin to see how government applies certain data regulation rules in our market. We'd like to domicile data in our market. We'd like to begin to see conversations around specific use cases for like the LPG we're seeing that, that is raising a lot of dust around how we can efficiently bring LPG to end users. I would like to see beyond regulations, I would like to see government's commitment to enable us have, hardware development capacity itself. And maybe certain parameters of the devices can be locally built, because we do not really need to depend on China for everything. We can begin to build capacity by, first of all, training our local workforce, upgrading our local workforce, so we can begin to domicile this technology in-house and begin to innovate in that regard.
Caesar, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, CA Agbata. Nice to meet you again.